Okay, well, let people to come and let's get started. So, first of all, hello everyone and our warm welcome. Thank you for joining us today on our session DevOps for D365, how to apply practices on Dynamics D365 projects. Today, we will share our experience on implementing DevOps practices on Dynamics 365 finance and operation projects. Today, we will walk you through how we set up environments without headaches, how we make releases predictable, catch the issues before our users do, and how we cut up the cost on our infrastructure. But before we begin, can you please drop a quick message in chat? Can you hear me well? And do you see the slides? Okay, seems to be everything fine. Well, thank you for your messages and reactions. Then let's continue. So why did we even decided to tackle with DevOps for D365? The answer was pretty straightforward. So from project to project, the approaches for development varied. The teams that we saw kept struggling with infrastructural errors, and the infrastructural costs were increasing immediately, and also the project timeline kept slipping. So at some point, we said ourselves, enough is enough, and let's standardize all infrastructural workflows. Let's make the code release predictable, and let's monitor what really matters to be monitored. And let's learn how and where we can save money on infrastructure. But before we continue, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Maxim. I am a senior DevOps engineer at SF Consulting. I've been in IT over 15 years, and for the last 5 years, I've been specializing in DevOps for D365, CE, and F&O. During this time, I have contributed over 20 Dynamics 365 projects and managed hundreds of client environments. And I also played drums in the band. So now that we've been introduced to each other, let's deep dive into DevOps for D365. So we have identified 4 focus areas in DevOps in D365 space. Those are environment management, code management, monitoring, and cost optimizations. That's exactly what we will cover today. So how we manage environments and code effectively, what worth monitoring, and where can you actually save up money. And let's start from the fundamentals. Let's start from automating environment management, because without environments, your project simply won't get off the ground. So the environment deployment starts from LCS, where Microsoft provides you with templates of virtual machines with D365 application pre-installed. And for us, it's like an iceberg, because above the water is what you see, that your environment has been deployed, the application has been installed, and it's accessible. But below the water is what actually awaits you. Sometimes the environments, the application versions are mismatched, the latest Windows updates aren't installed, the security policies hasn't been hardened, and you still need to restore database and deploy your customizations. So keeping this in mind, even if the environment is ready for 1 day from LCS, it may take you up to 5 days to get it for real productional work. But all these processes can be simply automated. And the cornerstone of our automation became for us an Ansible server. This is a small, lightweight server requiring no additional licensing, and it can connect to any environment without any configurations and bring it to a desired state. We have also built a setup of Ansible roles, the descriptions of the state we want our environment to reach, and we combine these roles into a playbooks. So, for example, with Ansible, we can restrict the access to environment only by trusted IP, or we can install additional software like Chrome and Notepad and perform lots of other operations. So after we have implemented this approach, we decrease the preparation environment time up to 4 hours. In addition to this, we also use actively PowerShell scripting for components updates. We use Azure Automation accounts to running scheduled tasks and the Bitsep templates for automating Azure resource deployment. But let's think what else automation can provide besides the environment setup. The scale in this case, it really doesn't matter whether you have one environment or dozens, you can run them and manage them all simultaneously. We can also automate the truly complex tasks with Ansible and PowerShell. For example, we installing platform updates or quality updates on our environments. For example, we also use this approach when we were migrating from Visual Studio 2019 to 2022. And the same approach we're going to use in next migration to 2026. The Ansible automation and PowerShell scripting became for us a real game changer in development field. So if environment breaks, we don't yet spend hours and days for debugging it or trying to find the issue. We just delete it and configure a new one in 4 hours. And we also automated not only the deployment of environment, but its maintenance. So for example, we scheduled Windows updates and third-party application tools run on monthly during off hours. So these were just the small examples of what we have already automated. And we keep adding new scenarios as they needed. I would also notice that the automation is not limited to standard LCS environments. We also increasing this approach for unified sandbox experience as well. Now, let's move to another section where we're going to talk about code build and delivery and how we made this process reliable. I believe when it comes to code development, everybody's expectations are pretty straightforward. So once the feature has been built, we should run some tests and code checks and deliver this new functionality as quickly as possible. But in practice, on many projects, we often face a different reality that tests were run manually, the build and release errors keep popping up, and release became really unpredictable. So in that case, every deployment became a high-stake manually orchestrated event. And after encountering this cycle for several times, we decided and set ourselves a clear goal. So the release process should be routine. That means it should be predictable, stable, and surprise-free. And to achieve this, we automated the build and delivery pipelines and completely eliminated the manual steps from commit to deployment on a test environment. So only the latest and thoroughly validated code is being deployed. As a result, no one has to focus on deployment process anymore because it just works. And the cornerstone of our automation and the foundation of this stability for us are our pipelines templates. Those are the set of the scripts that automate all code-related actions. So from the moment the change were committed to repository until it was deployment to test environment, everything is automated and requires no manual intervention. And just like with Ansible roles, we can adapt our pipelines to specific tasks or client requests. So for example, we can schedule release on agree upon time and on a target environment, on specific target environment, sorry. Or we can deploy code from a specific branch after pre-merge the changes to another. And even if client asks us to add some specific features like notification to Teams or WhatsApp, we can do that too. So we constantly improving our pipelines and optimizing their performance, adding new useful features such as best practice compliance report or automated unit tests or updating work item status during the run. Or we can also set a code version directly in repository. So it's worth mentioning that adding a new feature doesn't require to rewrite the pipeline from the scratch, and it doesn't affect its performance or reliability. So let me quickly share with you a real-life example. On one of our international clients, there are 8 test sandboxes, and previously their release process contained numerous of manual steps, from building the package to uploading it to LCS and then spread all around 8 sandboxes. In that case, errors and issues were the regular phase. So now with our templates, the only thing they have to do is just to select a proper artifact and press release button. And our pipelines do the rest of the work. So have we made the release routine? I can definitely say yes. And automation has completely eliminated manual interventions through the entire code delivery flow. And our clients receive now expected outcomes, so changes delivered in time and without disrupting the workflow. So also using the templates allow us to quickly adapt them for new projects. For example, deploying a full cycle code, built and delivery pipelines, takes us just a few days. And we also maintaining the script freshness, because in every template, the first step which becomes is to pull the latest and the most recent versions of our templates. And let's keep moving forward. Let's dive into the monitoring and its importance on D365 F&O projects. So also from project to project, we face the same issue that teams suffer from the lack of monitoring, and they ended up reacting problems instead preventing them. I think everybody has this typical scenario when environment is running, but it's actually inaccessible. And the key issue that we don't know why it's inaccessible. So, and also the most teams have discovered the expiry tokens and certificates only after the integration has been broken. And what about the issues with an open ports or unsecured connections? Well, this one oftenly came up during the security audit, or in worst case, when the infrastructure has been already compromised. And let's think about what else is useful to monitor. Our answers are, it's also worth monitoring to resource utilization efficiency, errors in services and applications, service versions across all the different environments, service performance metrics, suspicious connections attempts, and of course, our infrastructural spendings. But the problem that we faced, that the standard monitoring tools are often fragmented and don't provide unified and holistic view, especially when the infrastructure spans dozens of environments and dozens of services. So in our case, we had to develop several of our own services. On a typical D365 projects, you may have dozens of environments, and you can see them all in Azure portal, and you can see their status is running, but which version of application is running on them? So to solve this problem, we use our SF Azure Navigator service. That's a central environment hub where you can manage your environments. It lets you see all the available environments across all your subscriptions. So which application version is installed, what SKU is being used, and what disk types are being used right now, and how many of them are currently running. But I think that visibility alone is not enough. I believe everyone had this feeling when Azure shows that environment is running, but it's actually dead. We've been also there, and that is why on top of SF Azure Navigator, we have built our SF Azure Observation Service for the real health monitoring. So what it does, it not just identifies that environment is running, but it also checks whether the critical services like IIS or batch service are running. But here comes the smart part. It also identifies the activity on the environment. And if it was inactive, that means no RTP connections or other activity, it gracefully deallocated. Then it all comes to a budget. So what frustrates most financial teams in Azure bills? Because Azure shows there only the SKU names, but not the environment. And which environment, which costed, and which resources were underutilized. So in that case, we have to develop our Azure SF cost management report. This one provides you with detailed visibility into resource cost, and also worth to mention that it shows the license usage. So remember those environments which were running 24/7 with a zero usage. So this tool can help you find them and eliminate them. And of course, I should also mention some standard Microsoft tools which we use for monitoring. For example, we actively using function apps, like small lightweight applications, which helps us to monitor all the pipeline statuses across all the projects. We also use them for managing our build agents. I believe that keeping a build agent running 24/7 is really expensive, and we only need it when the pipeline is running. So these function apps can gracefully switch it up and gracefully deallocate it after the pipeline has been done. We also use low-code logic apps, which shows us which environment SSL certificate is expired in 7 days, and also which token or which integration will be break in the next coming days. We also made our logic apps track Microsoft Dynamics update calendar. So when the new platform update is announced, we knew about it immediately and can apply it on our test environments. Additionally, we actively using Zabbix for our own deeper infrastructural monitoring. We regularly try to check Microsoft security scores and strive follow Microsoft recommendation on enhanced security policies. We use application insights to collect and process logs for our integrations. For me personally, the monitoring is very useful and very close because it lets you to spot the problem before your users do and make some actions. So, for example, when Microsoft had issue and all our release pipelines got stuck, we were able to quickly reassure our clients that everything is handled, and also we were able to submit ticket as quickly as possible. So monitoring, of course, is great, but that is not all. And now let's move perhaps to most interesting part for the executives. Cost optimization and how we can save money with automation. Have you ever wondered where exactly you're losing money? Sorry. Let's be honest to each other that every project with the time has forgotten resources like old backups, storage accounts, or even entire environments. And then it comes to a licensing because they've been bought with a big buffer, but were they really used? Or you simply keep paying year after year for empty seats? I also should mention an excessive capacity as another silent budget killer. So we also saw that on some projects, the unjustifiably high SKUs and Ultra SSD disks has been used, where the standard or premium SSDs would handle the load perfectly. So in that case, they were paying for performance they don't actually need it. And all these resources can sit idle for hours, but the bills will keep coming right on schedule. So fortunately, our tools also help to significantly reduce this cost. I already mentioned our observation service that intelligently shut down unused environments. And yes, you probably have may heard or already used that feature that allows you to start and shut down the environments at schedule. But on our experience, even if environment is running 5 days a week from 9 to 6, about 70% of its time it's idle, but yet all the resources are being charged. So as I've mentioned, our observation service tracks real activity on the environment, like RDP sessions, background tasks. So, and if there was no activity for 2 or 3 hours, the number you can set up yourself. After this time, the environment will be shut down. And on our calculations, this approach helped us to save up to 50% on the environment costs. But we go a bit further. So we've learned our Azure Navigator dynamically swap disk types on the startup. What it means, every time when you start the environment, SF Azure Navigator swap the disk type from the standard one to, for example, premium or ultra. So you have the speed and the performance at the moment you are working with environment. And when you deallocate it, it swaps the disk specs to a standard one. And combining these approaches, we also calculated. So combining these approaches can save up to 70% on environment costs. And to see all these savings, our Azure Cost Management report provides complete transparency across all your resources. You see not just the list of environments, but detailed breakdown. So that means which environment, which disk type and backup are involved, and how much each of them cost, and how effectively they've been used. The separate section covers the licensing, so the report shows which licenses are active and their cost. This helps you to promptly identify lost seats and optimize your purchases. But for us, the key value lies in dynamics. So the report shows the price difference through the months. So, for example, you can see which resources were increased, which were decreased, and which unplanned items appeared in this bill. This is why this way you can manage your budget, not based on the feelings, but based on the facts. So let's summarize. Try to imagine DevOps as a Swiss Army knife, just as reliable. And let's see what DevOps automations delivers to Dynamics 365 projects. Well, first of all, and for sure, it's time saving. Here we're talking about the hundreds of routine work for your team. And on many projects, we saw that the most valuable and high-priced specialists are usually struggling with environments or making releases. For example, technical architects trying to solve environment problem or deploy something manually. The second is predictability. For example, every night you have a release, every 2 weeks you have a release on UAT, and every month you can go live. And your business get a reliable rhythm you can plan around. The third, of course, it's a team comfort. So everyone knows that the happy team is an effective team. And the environments with this approach just works. The release doesn't fail, and updates happens outside the working hours without disrupting your workflows. So your team actually stops fighting infrastructure and start focusing on their actual tasks. Fourth, those are infrastructural costs. As we already mentioned, timely shutdown of VMs and unused resources cuts infrastructural cost up to more than half. And also, this is a proven practices, and implementation of these DevOps practices on D365 projects isn't expensive. Yet, for us, it takes just 1 or 2 weeks to configure all the scripts and all the pipelines. We have spent years on refining them, but yet, as I said, that is just 1 or 2 weeks to set up and start using them. I also want to mention that current DevOps practices already working on 15 plus projects regarding Dynamics D365 Finance and Operations and also CE. And I should also mention that these practices are as reliable as a Swiss Army knife. Thank you for your attention. And now I would like to give microphone to Ilya Sasfenov. He will tell a bit more in detail about our company. So Ilya, warm welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Maxime, for the presentation, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. My name is Ilya, and I'm the manager at SF Consulting. Before we move to the Q&A section, I would like to take a few minutes to briefly introduce our company and explain how a DevOps approach fits in our work with D365 F&O. SF Consulting is a consulting company headquartered in Vienna, Austria. We have been working as an international team since 2017, and today bring together more than 20 professionals, including solution and technical architects, functional consultants, developers, and DevOps engineers. We support customers and implementation partners through the complete project lifecycle, from solution design and implementation to long-term application support. However, one of the important lessons we have learned from our project is that even very good teams cannot work efficiently if the technical delivery processes around them are unreliable. In many project teams, technical leads and developers are expected to take care of almost everything: solution architecture, development, environment preparation, deployments, application updates, and troubleshooting. This creates several problems. Highly qualified specialists spend a significant part of their time on repetitive operational activities instead of focusing on their core responsibilities. Knowledge remains with individual team member, and when something goes wrong, it's not always clear who owns the process. Our answer to this challenge, as Maxime said, is a dedicated DevOps function. The purpose of this team is not only to provide tools or occasional technical support. The DevOps team takes operational ownership of environment management, build and deployment processes, delivery automation, monitoring, and infrastructure optimization. This allows our solution architects and technical leads to concentrate on architecture and technical decisions. At the same time, the project benefits from standardized and repeatable delivery processes instead of relying on manual work and individual experience. We see the separation of responsibilities as an important part of project delivery quality. The examples Maxime presented today were developed in response to the needs we encountered in our projects. The objective is always practical: to reduce manual effort, lower delivery risk, to detect problems earlier, and control infrastructure costs. DevOps is one of our key areas of experience, but it's closely connected to our other competencies. We also have strong experience in development, solution architecture, electronic reporting, and integrations. We work both directly with end customers and with other Microsoft Dynamics partners. Depending on the project, we can provide individual experts, a dedicated technical team, or take responsibility for an entire work stream. So I hope the webinar gave you some useful ideas that you can apply in your own projects. If you have any question about the approaches presented today or would like to discuss your own DevOps challenges with us, please feel free to contact. We will be happy to continue the discussion. Again, thank you for your time and participation. Now, let us move to the Q&A section. But as I see, there are not so much questions. So, first one is, why don't you use Terraform? It's a great tool for deploying Azure resources. So, I think Maxime is the right person to answer this.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for that question. And to be honest, yes, Terraform is a great tool. But also, to be honest, we use it for deploying our Azure SF Navigator. But as I have already mentioned, that mostly we use LCS for deploying virtual machines and environments. These tools become really unnecessarily for our purposes. But we have plans to add some more automations and use this as an additional helping tool to make some deployments, especially for our clients when it comes to, for example, for regular or day-to-day deployments as quickly as possible. Thank you for that question. I hope that I have answered. We got one more question. Are you planning more technical follow-up webinars with live demos? I would like to learn more about tools you've mentioned. Yes, I also should mention that that was the first webinar, and we actually didn't know our focus people. And the new, more technical webinars are coming up. So in case you have interesting topic or the theme you want to cover, please contact us directly in LinkedIn and propose your topics that we will definitely cover and try to describe and also share our experience on how we do all these things. So I think that was the last question. Well, if there is no one wants to ask something, I would suggest to contact me directly in LinkedIn if you still have questions, but for some reason did not ask it here. Once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us today. Hope you found something valuable for yourself and for your projects and companies. And let's keep in touch. The record of this webinar will be available a bit later. And let's keep contact in LinkedIn. So have a great day, evening, depending on your time. Thanks for visiting us.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.